Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. In the last run of Filters versus Ammonia, I had put together a planter filter. And my intention was to put in a number of different plants, and because there was no other form of filtration on that tank, it was going to test out how each of them would do with that artificial spike of ammonia I was adding. Now initially I had put in hornwort, and nothing came of that. It didn't do anything at all. And then I tried it with Java moss, and it did extremely well. Well enough that I had to test it and retest it just to make sure that it was a real thing. And definitely to go and check out those videos if you're interested in all those results, but I'm not going to go through them all here again. But when I first put this filter together, I had put it together with the intention of converting it into something a little bit more permanent, and it was either going to be an aquaponics, hydroponics kind of setup, or it was going to be, as in this case, a filter that's going to test out a little bit more of Java moss's capabilities in filtration. So I'm going to convert this into a bog filter. Now, when I first put that together, I had the lights right down on top of the water so that the plants had as much light as they could possibly use, and therefore give them as best a chance as possible of dealing with that ammonia. It's not a good idea to keep the lights that low. It is a little too intense for most plants. So what I'm going to do is, as I've been talking to you here, put together a cap that's going to go over that filter. And this is going to raise the lights up. And also because it's going to be a sealed system, it is going to keep in all that humidity. So I will be able to grow a nice bog environment for a lot of different types of plants. So this is, if I remember correctly, the dimensions, it's about 15 1/4 inches long, and it is almost 11 inches wide, and it is 8 inches tall. So I'm going to be able to put a fair number of things in this. Mostly at the beginning, it is just going to be Java moss, because I really do want to test out how that's going to do. So later, though, I plan on putting other plants in here. Obviously, there's going to be Java fern, but I want to try some other stuff out as well. And of course, always leave your suggestions below. I'll definitely take them all into account because there's going to be a lot of space in here. And I want to, first off, make it look nice, but also, again, I want to test out its capacity as a filter. So because the bracket I made for the lights was designed to fit over the outside of the filter, and this of course fits on the inside just so that any condensation drips down back into the filter and not off the sides or anything, I have to add these two brackets on the top. They are going to allow me to fit the light on without any wiggle, really. It'll just slide on top of these, and I don't have to worry about accidentally brushing against it and knocking it off, just to keep it in place. And the easiest way of doing that is I just took the distance that it overlapped on both sides, obviously divided it in half, and it came out to about 1/4 inch. So I cut two strips here, which are the length of the lights, and I'm going to first off just glue one on here in place, because it only matters that it keeps it relatively centered. It's not something that has to be precise. So this is just a 1/4 inch overhang, and then what I'm going to do here is place it on, and as you can see, I'm going to wiggle it back and forth a little bit until I got a reasonably good fit. It doesn't have to be snug, but I don't want it to have too much free play. And once I have that, I just hold it in place and just tack weld it initially, and then place it back on top and make sure that it is where I want it to be. Just do a little bit of wiggling if it's necessary, and then of course just completely weld it in place. And because this top is going to sit inside the filter, so it's going to slide down the sides of that, I do also need to put on two brackets that are going to fit on the bottom part. You'll see that in a few minutes. That will hold this about 1/4 inch below that lip. Again, just so that all the condensation drips back where it belongs and not down the sides or anywhere else. The other thing I'm doing with this top is I'm not putting any holes in it. I'm keeping this as sealed as possible. One of the things that will do is it'll increase the amount of CO2 that's inside it, which is good. It'll help the plants grow, of course, and the other thing is also it will keep the humidity up nice and high, which will help a lot of the plants I plan on putting in here. One of the things I want to do this summer, if we ever get out of the point where we're allowed to go and do stuff, is I want to go out and get some actual local plants, some interesting ones. One of the plants that I could get, if I can find any, or I'm allowed to go anywhere where they exist, is something called sunnydew. It's a nice, interesting plant. It is a predatory plant. It also is in blogs. It's also in bogs, and it is a lot like a Venus flytrap, except of course it doesn't have those jaws that close. It does something quite similar. And I would really love to find some and put it in here because this is the perfect environment for it, and that would be kind of cool. But also I want to find some other stuff as well. And one of the things I want to try in here is some other forms of moss, and hopefully I'll be able to go and collect a bunch of that stuff as well. So anyway, all that is planned for the upcoming, hopefully good weather, even though it's supposed to snow tomorrow. I was kind of hoping we were done all that, but anyway, it is spring in Canada. It can do almost anything. Now, one thing about welding a 1/8 inch like this is it bends quite easily. So you have to be very careful when you weld that you don't add too much methylene chloride at this point, because as soon as you put pressure on to make sure it all fits together, you can easily squeeze. You can see it right there a little bit by my left thumb. It can squeeze out a fair amount, and then you can end up with streaks on it, and that's just not the kind of thing you want. You want to avoid that sort of stuff. So that's the kind of thing you need to be very careful about when you're welding the thinner stuff, even though technically it is the easier of the two to weld. And there you go. That's very straightforward. I'll weld the other one off camera. And the next thing to do, of course, is just to pop this into, clean out the bog filter, the Java moss filter to begin with, and then put the bog filter together. One of the things I had a little bit of, before I get to that, Java moss is growing really well out of here. Also, you can see I just can't get rid of duckweed. There always seems to be a little bit left over, and this one little patch here ended up growing in the back corner, and I'm going to fish all that out. I know I'm not going to get it all, but I'm going to do my best. So the Java moss, as you see, was growing really quite nicely, and I don't think you, like I said, I don't think you can kill this stuff, but I am going to hopefully manage to get some of it to grow really nicely out of the water as well, which is something I'm really looking forward to. This filter should allow for a lot more of that. So I'm just going to net out a little bit of the duckweed I missed, and then I'm going to put a layer of gravel in here, as I was going to say earlier before I got sidetracked. How much to add was something I was kind of not agonizing over, but had a little bit of a decision to make. I decided to go with a smaller amount to begin with, because I can always add more later. The Java moss doesn't mind being picked up and moved around. It doesn't really alter anything. So I'm going to add about a ½ inch to start off with, and then I'm going to put the Java moss back in. I'm going to set this all up, and I'm going to let it run for a little bit before I start adding other things. And again, if you have any suggestions, definitely leave a comment below and let me know. One of the things I want to try in here is Brazilian pennywort, but I can't seem to find any at the moment, and of course all the stores are all now locked down, so I don't really have much of a chance of getting it. So once that opens up again, hopefully I will be able to find some of that and be able to put that in here, because it is definitely one of the plants I want to try. So that's pretty much all there is to this. I am going to do a water change on this before I put some fish in here, because that's definitely part of the, this being a filter, it does require something like that involved. And then I am going to let it run for a bit, and we'll see what else I'm going to put in it. I took the nozzle off because I do want a little bit of splashing here to encourage a little extra humidity. And that's all there is to this. Just slide it in place and it just drops down on top. Very easy. So they're getting close to the end of the video now, and all I'm going to do is put the light on and give you a final shot of this, and let me know what you think. I took most of that out because it was just a shot of the back of my arm. I didn't think of repositioning the camera when I was doing this. So there you go. I think it looks really kind of cool. You're going to see an overview in a second here, and I actually really am interested in seeing how well this does. I'm not suspecting it's going to do poorly or anything, but I really do want to see how it really does. And the only way to do that, of course, is to test it and everything. So there you go. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think, and suggestions. Always suggestions, please. And I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.